And he, of course, is a great artist, and he's got this art all over his walls, and he gets it at his apartment, and his parents and friends come over to see his apartment. He's got all this art on the walls, and they're going, Roy, what's going on here? And he says, well, I've had all these, visions that the earth is hollow, and this is the kind of stuff we came up with. And they went, Roy, you need to get your head screwed on straight. Are you wearing your foil hat and all this? And he just kind of put them off, and finally they left. So he called up Tanya and said, Tanya, I know you know this guy Brooks Agnew. You got to put me in touch with him. And we had a phone conversation. We hit it off right away, and the first piece of art he sent us was perfect for the book cover. It was like unbelievable. And everything he's done for us, even the cover of the workshop DVDs that I do, he's just fabulous. We can't praise Roy enough.
Who's Alexander?
That's my middle name.
Okay.
That's my middle name. I don't like.
Oh, there it is. There's the B. Okay.
Okay.
There it is. All right, we'll go to the phones. Here we go. Let's go to international line. John in Toronto. Thanks for holding, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I just want a quick question. I'm sure all your listeners probably already know about the Illuminati. Now, over the years, they've tried very hard to reduce the world's population by 80% through AIDS, vaccines, pharmaceuticals, contrails, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm just really, I'm really mind-boggled because, there's a lot of fear-mongering going on even with the heavy conspiracy theorists. So do you really believe that 2012 is going to happen, considering that would just, wouldn't they just think, okay, you know what, in 2012 people are going to die anyways, so why go through all this effort? Like, let them die, in 2012. So do you really believe it's going to happen?
I really believe that 2012 is going to happen. I believe it can be cataclysmic. It's certainly predicted to be by all the ancients, and they left us enough evidence that it could happen. But I'm also saying that the reason we are here, the reason we're part of this planet, the reason the stature of beings that are here on this planet right now is because we can group our intention together. We can group, let's call it faith, if you will. And we can move this away from it. And we can ride through this division, this splitting, this rapture, if that's what you want to call it. And we can make it a very positive and wonderful thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be destruction and fear. And if there is such a body called the Illuminati, they're going to wake up one day, call a war, and nobody's going to show up.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. East of the Rockies, your turn. Deborah in Wisconsin.
Hi, good morning,
Hey.
George and Brooke.
Good morning.
I want to say a shout-out to my brother David in the Chicago area. I specifically wanted to ask you, Brooke, you made mention of the ancient beings that have remained here on Earth, and that there was a early Christian church teaching which was the doctrine was expelled or not accepted. What was the name of that that you're referring to? You said around the year 300.
Oh, yes. Well, we're talking specifically about the Council of Nicaea, and there was one in 310 A.D. Now, it was led by a very charismatic leader who happened to be a government leader whose name was Constantine. He brought in the metropolitan bishops, and the reason he brought them in is because they controlled most of the wealth in government and in the communities. Quite wealthy due to tithing gathered from the peoples, and he needed their allegiance. So he made several philosophical changes and expungements from the gospel because it didn't line up with what he thought would be a good government for the people. Many of the metropolitan bishops disagreed. They were inspired men and led their congregations with fervor and faith, and they were summarily beheaded, and the rest of them fell right in line. What's left is what we call the Biblio, or the Bible. It's a collection of writings and manuscripts that were carefully gathered by force and edited to fit the government's line.
Very good. Next up, west of the Rockies. Hello, Karen in California.
That's me.
That is you.
I've heard a couple of things tonight that sounded like what I've read in the Bible when Jesus is supposed to return to the earth. there's supposed to be a very large earthquake, larger than that's ever been on the Earth. You were talking about the core stopping the Earth spinning. And also when the satellites are affected, it says that the captains of the Earth will be afraid because communications have been stopped. And I was wondering how much of your information that you have is gleaned from the Bible.
Well, quite a bit. We take, if you look at Volume 1, we have 44 books, the Popol Vuh, the Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, the Bible, the Quran, and we glean everything that we can from those books. We tried to create these end times books with the least amount of prejudice, the least amount of single-mindedness that we could. We wanted to bring in all the traditions, all of the ancient observations without guile, without any kind of judgment on it. And when we brought it all together in that manner and coupled it with modern-day physics, the picture was amazingly clear.
They sort of coordinate, huh?
They sure do. You don't find as much contradiction as you might think, even though there is a lot of contradiction between religions.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to James in Oregon. Take it away, James.
Hey, how's it going? First
Great.
of all, Brooks, you are an amazing guest, and you are probably by far the best one I've heard on Coast to Coast so far.
Wow, that's amazing. What a great compliment.
Sure is.
With that said, since our intent creates our own reality, and if we are truly manifesting everything around us, then are we manifesting these Mayan prophecies of 2012? And how does the apocalyptic events of the Book of Revelation come into play?
Well,
and
that's a really good question. I guess the main question is the Book of Revelations a record of history or a prediction of the future?
Is that a question or an answer?
Well, if you read the book Worlds in Collision by Immanuel Velikovsky.
Yes, and I have that. I have that back in St. Louis.
When it first came out, it was poo-pooed, and there are some people who still call it bad astronomy. But it's kind of amazing how this fits together with things like Sumerian records, Zechariah Sitchin and such. And it seems to have a cosmological record that matches that. And amazingly enough, it looks like it matches Revelations really well, too, even though it's an event that happened long, long ago.
Do you tie in 2012 at all with the apocalypse?
Well, the apocalypse is kind of a broad brush. The apocalypse is an eschatological term, which means that we are going to have a war to end all wars. We're going to annihilate each other with weaponry. We're going to, melt each other before we hit the ground. And I think because that's a man-made event, that we clearly can walk away from that.
Okay, let's go to our next wild card line. In Arizona we go. Hi there, Kaz.
Hey, George, Dr. Agnew, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
I just had a comment and then a question. By far, 2012 to me has been the most serious prophecy. I didn't even bat an eye at Y2K because, as far as I've heard, there have been so many independent sources and ancient prophecies that all seem to come to 2012. I know I'm going to buy your books. I've been listening. I'm definitely getting them. But I had heard also, besides in the Codex Cartesianus with the 2012, of course, the ending of the calendar, and the supposed the Dark Mother, which is like the center of the Milky Way galaxy, being a black hole.
Exactly.
And how this lines up, I guess every 26,000 years you said that the Earth and the Sun will be lining up with the center of the galaxy, and this only happens every 26,000 years. Now, besides that, there was the Merlin, I believe, prophecies by something called the Merlin in the Middle Ages, who's along the lines of Nostradamus. He apparently also came up with the date 2012, and on top of that, the I Ching apparently from the when it was conceived, the final calculation works out to roughly December 21st, 2012. I mean, when you have, and then on top of that. Apparently, the solar maximum with the solar flares, it comes, I believe, every 11 years, just so happens to fall around 2012. And
That's
with
right.
all these things, it kind of scares you.